What do you get when you have 4 different quilters all making the same pattern?
4 very different quilts.
We're going to share different takes on this pattern and hear from the quilters about their inspiration. Hi, it's Fran Morgan.
And Hannah with Fabric Café.
We set a challenge for some of the quilters here at Fabric Café for all of us to make the same pattern from our double focus 3-yard quilts book.
We had 4 people participate and we all made the Pavilion pattern that you can see on the wall behind us.
All of the quilts look so different from each other. It's amazing.
So we wanted to share those quilts with you and learn a little bit more from all of our quilters about what they were thinking. So, Fran, will you start us off and show your quilt?
Now, this is my version of the Pavilion quilt. Now, let me talk a little bit about the pattern. Now, Pavilion is a double focus quilt from our double focus book. And actually, this would be one focus area, and this would be the secondary focus area with our light in the background, like always. So whenever I made this, a couple of things that I really wanted to focus on. One, I wanted to use up some scrap panel blocks that I had, and I wanted these little corners here that match up to have a really nice contrast so that you could see that this comes together and makes a little 4-patch. I really liked that. And then, of course, I just wanted a Christmas quilt for my home because I've never actually made a Christmas quilt for myself. So I thought this was the perfect opportunity, and I was able to pull all of these scrap pieces of snowflake fabrics and the panel blocks like I mentioned. Then I also had the snowflake fabric in the background. That's the white with the gold and the little green. I think it turned out great. I just love it. Let's get it on the table. Dive in a little deeper about what I did. I had recently discovered that I had these kind of panel blocks here, these Christmas blocks in my stash. I didn't have a full yard of them though. So I was like, oh my goodness, what am I gonna do? And so then we said, hey, let's do the Pavilion quilt as our challenge. And I thought, I think those are the perfect size. I'm gonna make myself a Christmas quilt.
Yeah, you've been wanting
a Christmas quilt.
Yeah.
I didn't actually have a Christmas quilt that I could really claim as mine that I can hang on to. So that was the first goal. So then I thought, okay, I'm gonna pull some other things from my stash that'll go with this. And probably the first thing that I pulled were the snowflakes here. And I thought, okay, that's perfect. It's the black background, and this kind of has a black background in the panel blocks.
And it has tiny snowflakes in it too.
So it kind of worked, but I didn't want it just black and white. I think I needed the extra color. So I pulled in this green here, as well as this scrap of this holly fabric that's done on the black background. So the black backgrounds kind of helped keep the blocks cohesive, I guess, a little bit.
It was a unified look.
And then the snowflakes, and snowflakes are always kind of my theme at Christmas, and I really thought this was perfect. And I got it all cut out and laid out, and I realized I didn't have enough fabric.
Oh, don't you hate when that happens?
You know, I was using scraps, so I just didn't have another scrap that I could coordinate with it. So I actually went and purchased a yard of this black with this larger snowflake, and I've used it in some of the blocks as well as on the border and binding. Just mixed it in, and I think it worked really well for what I was looking for. If you're using a panel block like I did, every other block is rotated, so just be aware. I really had to lay out my quilt block by block to say, okay, the panel block needs to go here and it needs to go here, because some of these are rotated. So I just paid close attention to where they were gonna go, and I completely laid the quilt out before I sewed it all together, just to make sure, because I did pull this green in. And it kind of matches this white just in the green. This green is an ombre fabric. And you can kind of see like how it goes darker and then it goes lighter and then it goes darker. I really like having the ombre fabrics in there just to give some depth and dimension. But I did one more thing with this green ombre fabric.
Oh, how pretty.
I used it on my back. So I really thought it turned out nice. So you've got that dark and that light. You really see the snowflakes. And I think it's going to be so much fun when I have it at Christmas and I'm cuddling up with it, or it's thrown over the back of the couch with the corner flipped over. You're going to get this pop of green. So,
and the snowflakes on this, these are metallic silver, so it has a little bit of a shimmer.
I'm real happy with how it turned out. I'm very excited to use it this Christmas. And I love this fabric. I mean, is this not just the epitome of the holidays with
Yes.
all of the treats and the cookies and the mixer? I have this mixer.
I do too, but mine is this color.
Oh, and mine is black. So,
Oh, okay.
so
Well,
we can
you know.
put our mixers together with this quilt and it works. And this is not a directional fabric, so it's going to work perfectly in your blocks. You're not going to have to worry about how it's cut. So that's going to go like where you see the panel blocks here. So perfect. And really good scale as well. And then for our number 2 fabric, we have this great white that's a tone-on-tone with a little star on it and some little polka dots. I think it's going to be perfect with this. The stars pick up all the star cookie cutters in our focus fabric.
That's so cute. I didn't even think about that.
It's perfect. So that's going to go everywhere you see the white on my quilt. And then for our number 3, yay, we have our snowflake in there. This is a really pretty one. If I had this one, I would have used this one. But I like it because it's the white snowflake on the black background. And they're in different sizes, which gives interest. This is going to be our double focus, so it's going to go in the alternate block here. And then a little bit on our binding as well. I love the cookie fabric, all those holiday treats in there with the mixers and the rolling pins. So cute.
so sweet.
And it's perfect on the border there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love
good.
that even though both of our fabrics are on a black background, there's still so much contrast because of all of the different colors you have in that focus. And you and I have talked a lot about scale, how the snowflakes are a much different scale than the focus, and that gives a nice contrast as well.
It really does. I like them together. I think it's great. And the white, because of the contrast, the white really shows off your focus blocks and the cool pattern of all the rotated blocks.
Oh, definitely.
Looks great.
It's great. I love it.
Yep, love it. Okay, let's get you the kit info on this. It is called Frosted Treats. It is the Pavilion pattern from the Double Focus book.
So for our next Pavilion quilt, our quilter would like to remain anonymous, but they were kind enough to let us share with you what they did. I love this quilt and what they did. So they used a fat quarter for these focus blocks right here, and you can see all of these different colors in here. And I love, they went on a diagonal. So this goes diagonal all the way across the quilt, and then we have a diagonal here going, and then so forth down the quilt. It just adds a really nice extra movement to the quilt, I think. And then they used for their little squares right here, they used the same fabric so that instead of this contrasting 4-patch, it was just this nice square, which I think is a fun take on it. I think this turned out really nicely. Now, I've got some really fun stories to share about the making of this quilt, so let's put it on the table and dive into it. Look how cute this quilt is, Fran.
This is a darling. I love her fabric choices.
I know, and you know, so she used a fat quarter for her focus blocks for all of them, and I think she used the same fat quarters for scraps, and she did a scrappy binding. Which I love.
That is very clever.
And she machine quilted it as well. She did diagonal lines across the quilt, which I think is really great. Great way to do your own quilting at home if that's something you're looking for. She told me a really sweet story about this quilt. She was at a quilt retreat and she had put together all of her rows. She had the whole quilt put together, looked at it and realized that it was made incorrectly. All of the blocks were going the wrong way.
Oh my gosh.
And you know, in those moments, all of us have been there where it's like, what am I gonna do now? She took the quilt and she threw it away and went on a walk to calm down.
It can be frustrating.
Yeah, sometimes you gotta step back and you gotta leave the sewing room, leave the sewing corner, leave whatever.
Okay, so what happened?
So
Because it's here.
It's here. So she came back and all of her quilting friends had seam ripped it apart for her and were laying the blocks back out the way it needed to be done for the pattern.
Oh my goodness.
Doesn't that just
oh
warm
my-
your
oh my
heart?
gosh. Yes.
The quilters coming together, man. That's beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my
How
goodness.
sweet.
And look at the results.
Yes.
It's precious.
I love it so much.
So this is truly a group effort.
I was able to find the same fabric line that her fat quarters came from. And so I pulled together a kit based on that.
I love it.
Keep that same happy, peaceful.
You know, it has a little touch of retro to it to me.
Yes, it definitely does. You're right. Which is fun. I love, so we have this multi-floral, green and pink floral on a check, but it's a really big check.
Yes, and this is a nice block to put that in.
Which is so fun. Like, I feel like normally you see the small checker print, but this one is like, it's a statement. It is here.
Yeah.
And so this will be in one of our blocks, and then as well as on our border. And then for our fabric number 2, we just went with a really soft texture, a little white texture to mimic what she had for her quilts. And that'll be everywhere you see the white. And then for our fabric number 3, we picked up this plaid that she used.
Love it.
And that will be in our alternating focus blocks.
I love it. I think this plaid is so cool because the little pink lines in here and the green really pick up the pink and the green in the focus. I just and it's a little bit different scale, and
it makes you think of home. Like, it's very homey, like you were saying with that retro. And the great thing about using a plaid in this pattern, you don't have to match up your plaids because the blocks will meet at the corner, but it's okay. You don't have to worry about lining them up exactly, so you don't have to worry about a plaid.
it is really cute. And the plaid almost looks like it's lit up a little bit the way that it falls, I think. It's very cool.
That's so true. I love it so much. So let me get you the kit information for this one. And it is called Summer Picnic, and it's using that Pavilion pattern from the Double Focus 3-Yard Quilts book.
So this is my Pavilion quilt, and this one I made with 4 fabrics. I had the 2 fabrics that definitely needed to be a double focus pattern. As you can see, the light and dark with the succulents cactus on there. And then I added a 4th fabric because I wanted it a little bit bigger. So I added a border, but I wanted to dress up my border a little bit and tie it in. So I did 4 patch on the corner blocks. And I also tied all the fabrics in doing a scrappy style binding. So that's how I tied that all together to make it a little bit larger on the Pavilion pattern.
Now we have Donna's quilt on the table, and her pavilion is darling. Tell us what your inspiration was for this.
Well, I just love the fabric because besides being a quilter, I'm also a plant person. So my first intention when I saw this was, it was mine.
Oh.
But that's not where it ended up.
Oh, well, you know, quilters have big hearts. And
Quilters do. But I held on to this for a while. I needed a Christmas gift for my daughter-in-law.
Yep.
So this became the answer.
Perfect.
For a Christmas gift. I mean, how many of you made Christmas quilts for Christmas in 24? So that's what this one became, but I wanted it to be unique.
Yes, well, it definitely is. It is gorgeous. You did a great job with your fabric selection. And you have incredibly straight, hand-quilted lines on this.
You know what? Use a iron, you know, you can remove it with iron markers, what I did, and my quilt ruler, and marked it.
Oh,
because,
perfect.
You know, I do love hand quilting. I'm a traditional hand quilter. The itty-bitty tiny seams are stitching, but I've evolved to big stitch quilting, and this is much bigger stitches, so I love that, and I hope you do too. And I wanted it bigger, so I added another fabric.
Oh, you did. So you have 3
I have
borders
3
here.
borders.
I love it.
I didn't have a 4th fabric, so I was hoping I could find something that looked like it went together.
It's great. And it also looks like you pieced your border. I mean, your binding.
I did. My binding, I thought, you know what, let's make it a little bit more unique, and let's piece the binding, so I did that as well, which I thought was really fun. But do you want to see what I really enjoyed doing? Because I usually do this. I'm going to move it just a tiny bit. And I wanted to tie it in because I didn't want just you know, strip borders around here. So I put in the little corner blocks to tie it in here as well.
I love that. That was so clever.
Just something a little unique, but there's something else. There's a little bit more because this was a gift. And again, I'm a traditional type of quilter. So what I did was I made a label and then I embroidered it. So you can, you know, it's obviously hand done, you can tell. So this was made for Jay, that's my daughter-in-law. And I put, and you should really identify who made it. So, you know, century from now when they find this quilt, they know which quilter made it. And then
gorgeous.
It was for Christmas of 2024. And sometimes it will add the state or any other information or the quilt name, but I did this time. That is one of the first things that they flip over and check when family members get a quilt for me. So
I love it. That is
kind
such
of a fun thing. It was like, is there a label on
touch.
it? So that's the fun part. So I really had fun making this quilt. And I don't know, for you, as you go along, do you get more excited or almost more happy as you begin to make it and you begin to see it come together?
Yes, that's like my favorite part of quilting is seeing all the blocks being made and laid out so that you can see all the colors and the design come together.
Yeah.
I love that part.
What's in your head is becoming reality.
Yeah. All right, let's kind of scooch this back down a little bit, and then let's look at some fabric that Donna has inspired for all the rest of us, which I just love. We have this beautiful green with all of the cactus on it, and then the cactus blooms are like these gorgeous pinks and purples and
like those colors
blues,
a lot.
and they really look great. Now, this is going to be our focus fabric, which is in the white block here, if you can see that, a little bit on the border. Perfect. Our number 2 is going to be this kind of yummy golden cream color with these leaves and this a little bit of a medallion in here, which is kind of cool. Keeps her very
dimension.
Good dimension and
to it,
interest in our number 2. That is going to go everywhere you see the beige on this one. And then for our number 3, which is like our double focus, right? It is our cactus again, so it's the same print, but it's done on a nice peach background. Great color combination here. I really like it.
It's very springy.
It is. It really, really is. So this is going to go everywhere you see the red on Donna's quilt. And I think it's just going to come together gorgeous. I love these together with the green and the peach colored fabrics with the cactus on it. And you can see how that background is perfect for it. It just gives lots of interest, and it has those highs and lows in the coloring, which I think is great. And I really love that we have good contrast with this, because the little 4-patch, you know, that we're talking about when you put your blocks together, it kind of comes together in that little 4-patch. That is really going to show up with this kit and these fabrics. So really, really like it. Let's get you the kit information for this. It is called Cactus Breeze. And once again, it is our Pavilion pattern from the Double Focus 3-Yard Quilts book.
So here we have my version of the Pavilion quilt. And what I did is I used a layer cake for all of my big squares. So that way I had a lot of different colors going on, a lot of different patterns. And then I wanted a really big contrast between my little 4 patches here. So I pulled in a teal and then used a black. And I used the black for my other squares too, so that my layer cake blocks would really pop off the surface of the quilt. I just went with a simple white dot for my background so that it would have a lot of contrast with those other colors and not distract from all the other ones. It would go with all of these different colors I had going on. Plus, I added a little border here because I wanted a little bit more teal in the quilt than it would have just by using these little 4 patches. So let's put it on the table, and I'll tell you about a border debacle that I experienced while I was making this quilt. I've really been into making kind of like pop art quilts lately, having this really strong contrast, very bright, and then really strong contrast with like a white and a black or teals and pinks and things like that. So I had this layer cake. And I thought, I'm going to use a layer cake for all of my double focus squares, so my fabric 1 and 3.
Perfect.
I love.
I think that is a great way to use a layer cake, and you get all these different looks. I see it now. So whenever you used your layer cake, did you like arrange them or did you just kind of randomly let them fall where they did?
I arranged them. I'm too OCD for that.
I would have done the same because I like kind of placing them and moving them around and just kind of looking at it.
And making sure that, you know, because some of them are dots and some of them are on white backgrounds, some are on blue, on pink, so that my color was dispersed amongst the quilts.
Okay.
And that was really important. You mentioned, you know, laying it out and really following along. I took a picture of my quilt blocks laid out because it was very important that I did all of my side strips and things the right way.
Yes.
And so, and I didn't know, you know, what was going to end up being my teal here. So I made these in pieces after I finished the quilt or laid it out.
Right.
So that I could.
This one goes here and this one goes here. And I did a similar thing. So that's interesting that we both kind of came to the same conclusion.
This is how it's going to have to work to make it work.
Cool.
I do have a story about my border.
Oh.
So I'm going to show you my top. So you can see on the side here, I have my birds. Now I got both sides on. I did the bottom border. I went to the top border and I was shy about this much. I thought about it. I was like, can I just trim the border a little bit and then piece it to get enough fabric? And I couldn't make it work. So I took the bottom border off and I had some of this black fabric left, and I just did a black border on the top and the bottom so that it would still symmetrical, I guess.
I think it's great. I think it looks really good. I just think it adds a little bit more charm to the quilt.
Thank you. Yeah, I am pleased with how it turned out, but man, it was painful in the moment.
And I love the quilting. The quilter used like a mint green thread, so it really pops off the background.
And it's bubbles, so it's
choice.
like the background bubbles. It's so cute. I love
cute.
little bubbles and dots, and it's just so cute.
It's so cute.
So I was able to find the same line as my layer cake. So this is our focus fabric. It's our going to go in one of our blocks and also on our border, and it's the same birds that I have.
Very cute.
But just on pink.
Very cute.
I think I probably have a pink one in here somewhere. I don't know.
Bet you do.
And then our number 2 is actually the same number 2 as I had.
Wow.
And so that's going to go everywhere you see that white.
And I like that it's like this tone on tone with all the different size little spots, dots. Yeah, it's very cute.
And then for our number 3, we went with one of the dot prints that is in the line that has all of these pinks and blues and greens and whites and just so cute. All of this color splashed across the surface.
It's so playful, so fun. And I love pink and black together. I love that combination.
Yes, I do too.
So good.
I've been very into that with my quilts lately. And that's going to go in our alternate focus block as well as on the binding.
And oh my goodness, how cute. The black and pink is just so cute.
Yes, I love that super strong contrast between the two. It really makes that 4-patch pop out a lot.
It does. And I think that's kind of the neat kind of thing about this quilt is when you put it together, it creates that. And it's so much fun. You're like, it's a little surprise.
Yeah, I love it. It's so much fun. And that pink on the border is a really nice big pop of color.
Yes.
All right, the kit information for this one is Retro Roost, and it's using the Pavilion pattern from the Double Focus 3-Yard Quilts book. Now, we've got some other challenges like this in mind for the future, but is there any specific pattern that you would like to see us make? Or do you like this type of series? Would you like to see more like it? Let us know in the comments.
And if you would like to see more inspiration for changing up 3-yard quilts, be sure to watch the video that pops up.
Happy quilting!